Montgomery Vane sat on a wet curb. His $3,000 suit was soaked by the city rain. I stood in his private boardroom, signing the deed that turned his empire into a memory. They saw Isadora Sterling as a minor variable, a clerical error in their grand design. Montgomery laughed while he bulldozed a century of history. He didn't realize he was just clearing the path for his own execution. Isadora's solid platinum hourglass pendant caught the light. The sand had already run out for the Vane family. They thought the land was theirs. They forgot that the ocean never forgets a debt. They made one mistake. A paper trail they thought was buried under 40 years of lies. In the next few minutes, you will witness the exact moment a paper trail becomes a noose. This is not a story of luck. It is a masterclass in systemic destruction. Pay attention. You might need these moves one day. The elevator ride to the 58th floor. It's a lesson in silence. Outside, the Manhattan skyline is a bruised purple. Rain lashes against the reinforced glass like 1,000 desperate fingers trying to get in. Inside, there is only the hum of the climate control and the scent of expensive cedar wood. I am Isadora Sterling, but in these halls, I am the shadow they never saw coming. My heels do not click on the marble. They thud, a heavy, rhythmic heartbeat that echoes against the gold-leafed walls. The weight of the solid platinum hourglass pendant against my collarbone is a constant reminder of the gravity of this moment. It is cold, it is immovable. It is the anchor for 1,000 souls whose stories were erased by the man sitting behind the double mahogany doors. Montgomery Vane is a man built on the illusion of permanence. He believes that wealth is a shield. He believes that time is something he can buy, sell, or manipulate. When I enter, he does not stand. He remains seated, framed by a window that overlooks the very waterfront he intends to steal. His office is a temple of arrogance. Ancient leather books that have never been read. A desk carved from a single piece of obsidian. And a smile that is as sharp as a razor blade, Isadora, he says. His voice is smooth, like expensive bourbon poured over ice. I was told you were the best legacy auditor in the state. I was also told you were expensive. I do not sit. I stand in the center of the room, my silhouette reflected in the polished black surface of his desk. Expensive is a relative term, Montgomery. Value is what matters. And right now, your value is fluctuating. He laughs. It is a dry, hollow sound. He slides a leather-bound folder across the desk. I want this project to move quickly. No delays, no historical inquiries. Just a clean transition. I am offering you a consulting fee of $2 million, just to ensure the paperwork reflects the progress we both want to see. He calls it a consulting fee. I call it a bribe. It is the standard move of a man who fears the truth. He wants me to look the other way while he builds a playground for the elite on top of the graves of the forgotten. I reach down, my fingers brushing against the platinum hourglass. I feel the intricate carvings of the metal. I do not look at the check he has placed on top of the folder. I look at the deed. The paper is heavy. Parchment grade, it smells of chemicals and old ink. Vane watches me. His eyes are narrow, tracking my every movement. He thinks he has already won. He thinks every person has a price, but he has never met a sterling. As I turn the pages, the internal machinery of my mind begins to accelerate. I am not just reading words. I am auditing a crime scene. I see the corporate structures, the shell companies, the layers of offshore insulation designed to protect the Vane family legacy, and then I see it on page 14, paragraph 3. Under the section titled Allodial Transfer, there is a single word, a technicality that most lawyers would dismiss as a simple clerical error. It is a reference to the northwest quadrant, but it is spelled with an extra letter. A silent, hidden marker dot to the untrained eye. It is a typo dot to an iron whisperer. It is a confession in the legal language of the 1890 Maritime Trust. That specific spelling was only used in documents pertaining to land held in sovereign escrow. This means the land was never legally incorporated into the city. It means it cannot be sold. It cannot be developed. And it certainly cannot be owned by a man like Montgomery Vane. The typo is the signature of a forgery, a trace of the original deed that Vane's team tried to overwrite. My pulse remains steady. I do not let a single muscle in my face betray my discovery. I feel a cold, sharp satisfaction blooming in my chest. Montgomery is leaning back now, crossing his arms. His gold watch glints in the dim light. Is the fee sufficient, Isadora? Or do we need to discuss a higher bracket of cooperation? I close the folder. The sound is final, like the closing of a tomb. The fee is interesting, Montgomery, but your paperwork has a flaw. He freezes. The smile stays, but his eyes go cold. A flaw. My legal team spent 6 months perfecting that deed. What could you possibly have found in 6 minutes? I lean forward, just enough so the light hits the platinum hourglass pendant. I found a ghost. Montgomery, a ghost that is going to haunt every brick of your new empire. I slide the folder back to him. I do not take the check. I am not here to consult. I am here to audit. And right now, you are in a massive deficit. I turn and walk toward the door. He stands up then, the chair scraping harshly against the floor. Sterling, don't be a fool. You walk out that door and you're an enemy of the city's most powerful man. I stop, my hand on the heavy brass handle. I don't mind being an enemy, Montgomery. I find it much more honest than being a friend to a thief. I walk out, the heavy doors clicking shut behind me. The hallway is silent again, but the air feels different now. The storm outside is still raging, but for the first time in a century, the tide is starting to turn. I step into the elevator. My reflection in the mirror is sharp, obsidian skin against the silver streak of my hair. The trap is set. He thinks I am going to the authorities. He thinks I am going to file a report. He has no idea that I am going to the archives. I'm going to find the original 1890 ledger. And when I do, I am going to pull the thread that unravels the entire Vane family history. Systemic destruction requires patience. It requires precision. And above all, it requires a memory that is longer than the reach of the arrogant. The hourglass is turned. The sand is falling. And Montgomery Vane has no idea how little time he has left. The elevator doors open to the lobby, but I do not leave the building. I sit in the velvet armchair of the lobby lounge. I pull out my encrypted tablet. My fingers move with a cold, precise rhythm. The solid platinum hourglass pendant hangs heavy against my chest. I do not need to look at it to know that Montgomery Vane has already made his first move. Arrogant men always follow the same script. They do not fight the truth. They try to destroy the person who found it. 3 minutes later, my phone vibrates. It is a notification from the state licensing board. An emergency hearing has been scheduled for tomorrow morning. The allegation is professional malpractice. They are moving to revoke my license as a senior legacy. Auditor Montgomery is fast. I will give him that. He has used his political connections to strike at my livelihood before I can even reach the archives. He wants me powerless. He wants me barred from accessing the sensitive documents that would prove his forgery. But Montgomery Vane is playing checkers. I am playing sovereign chess. I stand up. The lobby's golden light reflects off my silver-streaked hair. I walk toward the exit. But I am not going home to prepare a legal defense. I make one phone call, Arthur. I say, the voice on the other end is raspy old, the sound of a man who knows where the bodies are buried. Is it done? I ask. Arthur chuckles. The paperwork was filed an hour ago. Isadora, the transfer is complete. You are now the majority stakeholder of the 821 Commercial Trust. Excellent, I reply. Send the notice to the building manager of the licensing board headquarters immediately. I hang up. A ghost of a smile touches my lips. The next morning, the state licensing board building is cold. The air smells of floor wax and stale coffee. I walk into the hearing room. 3 officials sit behind a high mahogany bench. They look down at me with practiced indifference at the back of the room. Montgomery Vane is leaning against the wall. He is wearing a smirk that costs more than most people earn in a year. Isadora Sterling. The chairman says, his voice is a monotonous drone. You are here because of grave concerns regarding your auditing methods. Pending a full investigation. Your credentials are suspended effective immediately. He reaches for his gavel. I do not flinch. I do not speak. I simply reach into my charcoal blazer and pull out a single, blue-stamped document. I walk forward and place it on the bench. The chairman frowns. What is this, Dot? It is a notice of eviction. I say my voice is quiet, but it fills the room like a physical weight. The officials look at the paper. Then they look at each other. Their faces go pale. This board operates out of the 821 Plaza. I continue. As of 5 o'clock yesterday, I am the sole owner of this building through a private acquisition trust. The room goes deathly silent. Even the clock on the wall seems to stop ticking. According to the terms of your government lease. Section 9, subsection B, the landlord has the right to terminate occupancy immediately if the tenants are found to be engaging in legislative interference or bad faith administrative actions. I turn slowly. Looking directly at Montgomery Vane, his smirk has vanished. His face is the color of ash. If this board chooses to proceed with a fraudulent hearing based on the influence of a private citizen, I say, my fingers lightly brushing the platinum hourglass, you will be vacated from these premises by noon today. The chairman's hand is trembling. He looks at Vane. Then he looks at the eviction notice. He knows the law. He knows that if I kick them out, the state's entire licensing infrastructure for the city will collapse for months. The hearing is adjourned. The chairman stammers. Indefinitely, I take the document back. I walk toward the exit, passing inches away from Montgomery. I can smell the expensive cologne on his skin. I can also smell his fear. I told you, Montgomery, I say, just loud enough for him to hear. Your value is fluctuating. I walk out into the sunlight. The first strike is over. Vane tried to take my voice. I took the ground beneath his feet. Now, it is time for the second strike. It is time to go to the archives. It is time to find the ghost trust. The lobby of the municipal building is a cavern of echoes. I sit in a high-backed velvet chair. My posture is a perfect 90-degree angle. I am a statue of patience. The air in here is different from Vane's office. It doesn't smell of expensive cedar. It smells of bureaucracy, dust, wet umbrellas, and the faint, metallic temps of old coins. I pull out my encrypted tablet. The screen glow reflects in my eyes, casting a pale blue light across the obsidian planes of my face. The solid platinum hourglass pendant is a cold weight against my collarbone. I feel its gravity. It reminds me that every second I spend here is a second Montgomery Vane is using to sharpen his knives. I do not need to look at the screen to know what is happening. Men like Vane do not wait for the law to take its course. They try to rewrite the law while the world is sleeping. My fingers move across the glass, not with haste, but with a calculated, rhythmic precision. I am tracing the digital signature of the licensing board's emergency. Server. 3 minutes pass. Then the notification arrives. A sharp, aggressive ping that cuts through the silence of the lobby. It is an official summons. An emergency hearing of the state licensing board. The charge is ethical breach and malpractice. They are moving to revoke my license as a senior legacy auditor. They want to strip me of my power before I can step foot in the archives. I lean back, closing my eyes for a fraction of a second. Montgomery is efficient. I will give him that. He has reached into the pockets of the board members. He has whispered into the ears of the city's gatekeepers. He believes that by taking my credentials, he takes my sight. He thinks he can make me invisible. But Montgomery Vane is playing a game of shadows. I am the shadow. I stand up. My charcoal blazer is perfectly crisp. Not a single wrinkle. I walk toward the exit. But I am not going home to call a lawyer. I do not play defense. I only play the endgame. I pull my phone from my pocket. I dial a number that is not stored in my contacts. A number that doesn't exist on any public record. "Arthur," I say. The voice on the other end is a low, gritty rasp. Like tires on gravel. I say "Do-ra." He says, "I assumed I would hear from you tonight. Vane's people have been busy." "I know." I reply. My voice is as calm as a frozen lake. "Is the 821 Commercial Trust active?" Arthur chuckles. "It has been active since 4 o'clock. The paperwork was filed through the offshore portal. You are now the majority holder of the trust, which means I own the ground they stand on." I finish. "Exactly." Arthur says, "The 821 Plaza, the building that houses the state licensing board. It's yours. Every brick, every beam, every marble tile. Send the notification to the building manager." I say, "Make it a hard delivery. Hand-stamped, no emails. I want them to feel the weight of the paper in their hands." I hang up. The street outside is a blur of yellow taxis and gray rain. I stand under the awning of the building. Watching the city move, the rain splashes against the pavement, creating a rhythmic, chaotic music. I feel the hourglass pendant. It is silent, but the sand is moving. I am thinking about the board members, men who have spent 30 years building reputations on a foundation of sand. They think they are safe in their high-backed chairs. They think they are the ones who decide who stays and who goes. They have no idea that the room they are sitting in is no longer their sanctuary. The next morning arrives with a cold, unforgiving light. I walk into the hearing room at 10 a.m. Sharp. The room is a monument to old power. Dark wood paneling, heavy green curtains that block out the sun, a long mahogany bench where 3 men sit. Their faces are masks of artificial gravity. At the back of the room, Montgomery Vane is leaning against a pillar. He is wearing a charcoal suit that matches mine. But on him, it looks like a costume. He is holding a silver espresso cup. He doesn't look at me. He looks through me. "Isadora Sterling." The chairman says. His voice is a thin, reedy sound. "You are here to answer for allegations of data manipulation. Given the severity of the claims, this board is moving for an immediate and permanent revocation of your auditing status." He reaches for a wooden gavel. I do not speak. I do not sit in the chair provided for the accused. I walk toward the bench, my heels thudding on the carpet. Each step is a word. Each word is a sentence. I reach into my bag and pull out a single, thick document. It is bound in blue leather. The seal of the sovereign escrow is embossed in gold on the front. I place it on the table in front of the chairman. The chairman stops, his hand frozen midair. He looks at the document. Then he looks at me. "What is this?" he asks. "This is an administrative hearing. Not a discovery session. It is a notice of lease termination." I say. My voice is quiet, but it carries a frequency that makes the water in the chairman's glass tremble. "I have just acquired the 821 Commercial Trust," I continue, "which makes me the primary landlord of this facility." The chairman's mouth opens slightly. He looks at the other board members. They are motionless, under the terms of the city's master lease. I say Section 12. Paragraph 4. The landlord reserves the right to terminate the lease of any tenant engaged in conspiratorial administrative misconduct or the perversion of judicial neutrality. I turn my head slowly. I look at Montgomery Vane, that the silver espresso cup in his hand is shaking, just a fraction of a millimeter. But I see it. If this board proceeds with a hearing that has been bought and paid for by a private interest, I say you will be in violation of your lease by 11 o'clock. I pause. Let the silence stretch. Let them feel the walls closing in by noon. I will have the sheriff's office here to vacate this floor. The files will be seized. The computers will be encrypted. And this board will effectively cease to exist in the eyes of the state. The room is so silent I can hear the hum of the light fixtures. The chairman looks at the blue leather folder. He doesn't open it. He doesn't need to. He knows who I am. He knows that an iron whisperer doesn't bluff. He looks at Montgomery. Vane's face has turned a sickly shade of gray. The chairman clears his throat. The sound is like dry leaves skittering across pavement. The board finds that the allegations lack sufficient evidence for a hearing at this time. He says, his voice cracking. This matter is dismissed indefinitely. He doesn't use the gavel. He just drops it. I pick up my folder. I do not look at the board again. I walk toward the exit. I stop when I am parallel to Montgomery Vane. The smell of his fear is stronger than his cologne now. It is a cold, sour scent I told you in your office, Montgomery, I say. My voice a low, dangerous murmur. Your value is fluctuating. Today you are trading at 0. I walk out of the room. I do not wait for him to respond. I do not need to hear his threats. I step into the hallway. The sun is finally breaking through the clouds. The first strike is complete. I have protected my voice. I have reclaimed my ground, but this was just a skirmish. The real war is in the basement. I need the 1890 ledger. I need the ghost trust. I need to find the signature that will end the Vane dynasty forever. The Municipal Archive building is a limestone tomb. It sits on the edge of the district, a brutalist structure that seems to swallow the gray light of the afternoon inside. The air is stagnant. It is a thick, heavy mixture of iron and ancient dust that has settled over a century of secrets. It smells of decaying paper, industrial floor wax, and the heavy, bitter scent of forgotten promises. I walk through the metal detector. My silhouette is sharp against the flickering fluorescent lights of the lobby. The security guard doesn't even look up from his tabloid. I am a ghost in a house of ghosts. I am Isadora Sterling. And I know that in this city, power isn't just held in glass skyscrapers. It is buried in the basements. It is etched into the ledgers that the powerful think they have burned. I begin my descent. The staircase is a narrow, concrete throat that leads into the bowels of the city. Each step I take is a deliberate, heavy thud that echoes through the silence. The temperature drops with every floor I pass. By the time I reach sublevel 4, the air is freezing. Dry. Bitter cold that bites at the skin. I feel the solid platinum hourglass pendant against my collarbone. It is a grounding weight, a cold anchor in a sea of uncertainty. I touch it briefly, feeling the intricate carvings under my fingertips. The metal is ice cold, a reminder that time is not a luxury for those seeking justice. It is a weapon. Sublevel 4 is the archive of sovereign deeds. Row after row of iron shelving stretches into the darkness. Each shelf is packed with leather-bound ledgers, boxes of microfiche, and rolled maps that haven't been touched since the Great War. The lights overhead flicker with a low, irritating hum. They cast long, distorted shadows that dance across the floor as I move. My heels do not click here. The floor is reinforced concrete, absorbing the sound of my progress. I move like a premonition, a shadow among shadows. Montgomery Vane believes he can erase history by building over it. He believes that if you silence the people, you silence the truth. He spent $20 million on digital security. He hired hackers to scrub the servers of the Department of Buildings. He had the city's database purged of every reference to the 1890 Maritime Trust. He believed that if the data didn't exist in the cloud, it didn't exist at all. That is the arrogance of the modern elite. They believe the world began the day they were born. They do not understand the weight of a handwritten ledger. They do not understand that paper is patient. I stop at aisle 12. The iron shelving is rusted. It feels like a blade pulled from an ice bath when my hand brushes against it. I am looking for the 1900 series, specifically the 1890 Maritime Trust ledger. This is the document that Vane's team spent years trying to find and destroy. They succeeded in removing the digital footprints. They succeeded in bribing the city clerks to misplace the physical copies. But they didn't account for the iron whisperer. They didn't account for Isadora Sterling. I scanned the spines of the massive leather-bound volumes. Most are crumbling. Their spines are cracked like dry skin. The inventory codes are barely legible. 709, 7-1-0. I reach the end of the row. There is an empty space where the 1900 series should be. I do not panic. I do not feel my pulse quicken. I simply stand in the silence, listening to the hum of the lights. I know how Montgomery Vane thinks. He wouldn't destroy it. Destruction leaves a trail of ash and questions. He would hide it. He would misfile it under a category so boring, so mundane, that no auditor would ever think to look for it. I look across the aisle to the section marked Sanitation Records. 1890 to 1920, a ghost of a smile touches my lips. It is the perfect hiding spot. Who would look for a sovereign deed among 100 years of sewage maps and trash disposal logs? I walk over, my shadow stretching across the floor like a dark hand reaching for the truth. I pull a volume from the shelf. Volume 42. It is heavy. The leather is thick, stained with what looks like old oil and the grime of a century. I open it. The sound of the spine cracking is like a bone breaking in the absolute silence of the vault. The smell hits me immediately. It is not the smell of sanitation records. It is the smell of the sea-old salt, wet timber, and the copper scent of blood. This is it. The handwriting inside is elegant. A copperplate script written by a man who knew his words would outlast his life. Every stroke of the pen is a testament to a history that was never meant to be forgotten. I turn the pages slowly, my fingers grazing the parchment. It feels like skin. Cold and preserved. Each page is a list of names. The dockworkers, the stevedores, the men who built the foundations of this island with their bare hands and broken backs. Elias Thorne. Samuel Sterling. I stop when I see that name. Samuel Sterling. My great-grandfather. I feel a sudden, sharp throb in my chest. This is more than an audit. This is an inheritance. Samuel was one of the reclamation crew. He was one of the men who clawed the land back from the tide. I turn to page 212. The ink here is dark, almost black. The title at the top of the page reads, Sovereign Escrow of the Maritime Trust. I begin to read. My internal monologue translating the archaic legal language into a death sentence for Montgomery Vane. It is all here. Every detail. Every loophole. Every trap. The waterfront was not sold to the city. It was not granted by the Crown. It was a reclamation project funded entirely by the trust. Under the Maritime Act of the land extending 40 feet into the harbor from the high water mark is designated as sovereign territory. My eyes widen as I read the final clause. It is not city land. It is not state land. It is not even federal land, because the trust was never formally dissolved or incorporated. The land is technically international waters. It is held in a perpetual ghost trust for the heirs of the original reclamation crew. I feel the trap closing in my mind, the gears of justice grinding into place. Montgomery Vane is building a multi-billion-dollar private yacht club on territory that is legally equivalent to the high seas. He has no building permits. Because the city has no jurisdiction to issue them. He has no deed. Because the land cannot be owned by a private corporation under the Global Maritime Treaty cited in this ledger. He has no authority by building his structure there. He has not just committed a zoning violation. He has committed an act of maritime piracy. He didn't just break a law. He violated a global sovereign boundary. I stand there in the dim, flickering light. The weight of the ledger in my hands feels heavier than the stone walls surrounding me. The platinum hourglass pendant catches a stray beam of light. It glows with a cold, calculated intensity. It is the only bright thing in this dark place. I think about Montgomery Vane. I think about him sitting in his glass office, looking out at the water. He thinks he owns the horizon. He thinks he owns the very tide that rises and falls against the piers. He has no idea that he is a squatter, an international criminal hiding behind a $3,000 suit, I pull an encrypted camera from my blazer. My movements are fluid, precise. I begin to document every page. The flash of the camera is a sharp, white strobe in the darkness. Each click of the shutter is a nail in the coffin of the Vane family legacy. The light reflects off the platinum of my pendant, casting dancing white spots across the ancient ink of the ledger. I feel a cold, sharp satisfaction blooming in my chest. Systemic destruction requires more than just anger. It requires a memory that is longer than the reach of the arrogant. It requires the patience to find the one document that turns an empire into a liability. Montgomery Vane is building on water, and the water belongs to the ghosts of the dockworkers. It belongs to Samuel Sterling. It belongs to me. I finish the documentation. I close the ledger. The sound is final, like the closing of a tomb. I place the book back on the shelf. In the sanitation section, volume 42. It will wait there, a silent witness. Until the day I bring the world down on Montgomery's head, I turn and walk back toward the stairs. My pace is steady. My breathing is shallow. The descent was a search. The ascent is an execution. As I climb the concrete stairs, I feel the weight of the truth pressing against me. It is a heavy, glorious burden. The air begins to warm. The humidity of the surface world returns, smelling of rain and exhaust and the frantic energy of the city. I step out into the lobby. The security guard hasn't moved. He is still staring at the same page of his tabloid. He has no idea that the world changed while I was in the basement. He has no idea that the man who owns the skyline just lost the ground beneath his feet. I walk out of the municipal archive. The street is a blur of yellow taxis and gray pavement. The rain has stopped, leaving the air sharp and clean. The city lights are beginning to flicker on, one by one, like eyes opening in the dark. I pull my phone from my pocket. My fingers are steady as I type a one-word message to Arthur.found. I look up at the Vane Tower in the distance. Its spire is a needle of light piercing the clouds. "Enjoy the view, Montgomery," I whisper. The sound lost in the noise of the traffic, because the tide is coming in, and you never learned how to swim in international waters. I touch the platinum hourglass one last time. The sand has run out. The debt is due. And Isadora Sterling is coming to collect every cent. The alleyway behind the municipal archive is a canyon of wet brick and iron. The sky above is a narrow strip of charcoal. The rain is relentless, a cold, persistent drizzle that turns the city's grime into a slick, reflective mirror on the asphalt. The air here is thick. It smells of wet soot, industrial ozone, and the metallic temps of old drainage pipes. It is the kind of silence that feels heavy, like a physical weight pressing against the eardrums. I am Isadora Sterling. I do not run. I do not hide. I walk into the shadows because I have spent my life learning how to control them. My heels thud against the wet pavement, a slow, deliberate rhythm that echoes against the high, windowless walls of the surrounding warehouses. I feel the solid platinum hourglass pendant against my chest. It is a cold, reassuring pressure. I touch it with my gloved hand, feeling the smooth, hard surface of the platinum. The sand inside is invisible, but I can feel the weight of time shifting. Montgomery Vane is desperate. I knew he would be. A man like Vane does not accept a loss in a boardroom. He does not respect the dignity of a legal dismissal. When the law fails to protect his theft, he reaches for the older tools: fear, intimidation, physical erasure. I hear the sound of the first car before I see it. The low, throaty hum of a high-performance engine idling at the mouth of the alley. Then, a second car blocks the rear exit. The headlights cut through the gloom. Two twin beams of harsh, white light that turn the falling rain into a wall of silver needles. I stop. I do not turn around. I do not reach for a weapon. I simply stand in the center of the wet asphalt, my silhouette sharp and defiant. Three men emerge from the glare of the headlights. They move with the heavy, synchronized confidence of professional correctors. These are not common thugs. These are elite security contractors. Men with military backgrounds and zero moral compass. Men who are paid six figures to make inconvenient people disappear. Their coats are high-end tactical, charcoal gray, water-resistant. Their boots are silent. Their faces are masks of professional indifference. The man in the center is the lead. He is broad-shouldered. His skin is the color of weathered leather. He has a jagged scar that runs from his temple to his jawline, a map of a violent history. He stops 10 feet away from me. The rain drips off the brim of his tactical cap, Isadora Sterling. He says, his voice is a low, gritty rasp, like tires on broken glass. You've been a very difficult woman to track down. But the search ends here. I look at him. My eyes are calm. My pulse is a steady, rhythmic beat that matches the falling rain. I do not feel fear. Fear is a reaction to the unknown. And I know exactly who these men are. I know their names. I know their service records. I know the serial numbers of the weapons they are carrying beneath their jackets. You are working for a man who is currently committing maritime piracy. I say my voice is quiet, but it carries through the rain like a blade. I suggest you reconsider your employment contract. Montgomery Vane's credit is about to become a historical footnote. The lead man chuckles. It is a dry, hollow sound. We don't care about the law, Isadora. We care about the assets. He takes a step closer. His hand moves toward the inside of his jacket, hand over the camera, and the ledger notes. Now, and maybe you walk out of this alley, otherwise things get complicated. I build a platinum hourglass. It is cold. Immovable. Complicated is a relative term. I say, I reach into my blazer. The three men tense, their hands moving to their holsters. I do not pull out a gun. I pull out my phone. The lead man sneers. You're going to call the cops. By the time they find this alley, we'll be halfway to Jersey, and you'll be a memory. I do not look at him. I look at the screen of my phone. I am not calling the police. I say I am calling the clearinghouse. I tap a single, encrypted icon on the screen. In the world of high-tier finance, there is a protocol known as a Section 21 freeze. It is a tool used by the Department of the Treasury to combat money laundering and terrorist financing. It is a digital execution. When a Section 21 is triggered, every asset associated with a specific entity is locked instantly. No warnings, no grace periods, no appeals. The men in front of me are independent contractors, but they are paid through a shell company owned by Vane's primary trust. Their personal bank accounts are linked to that payroll. Their mortgages, their car payments, their children's tuition. Everything is tied to the Vane empire. I speak a 12-digit code into the phone. Authorization, Sterling 090. Initiate AML protocol on payroll entity 7 Alpha. The lead man frowns. What are you talking about then? It happens. A chorus of digital pings fills the alley. 1, 2, 3. The men reach for their own phones. They look at the screens. I watch the color drain from the lead man's face. It is a slow, satisfying transformation. His phone screen is flashing red. A message in bold. White letters, account suspended. Contact compliance immediately. I see the panic in his eyes. It is the panic of a man who suddenly realizes he is fighting for a ghost. I just triggered a suspicious activity report on your entire payroll structure. I say my voice is a cold, precise whisper. As of 10 seconds ago, you are all listed as designated persons under the Anti-Money Laundering Act. Your personal accounts are frozen. Your credit cards are dead. Your digital identities are currently being audited by the federal government. I take a step toward them. The lead man flinches. He actually flinches. You are currently standing in a rainy alley, working for a man who cannot pay you, because his money no longer exists in a legal format. I touch the platinum hourglass. The light from their own headlights reflects off it, blinding them for a split second. I am Isadora Sterling. I do not fight with my hands. I fight with the architecture of the system you were foolish enough to trust. The silence that follows is absolute. Even the rain seems too muffled. The three men stand there, paralyzed. They're holding weapons. They have the physical power to crush me. But they are broken. A man without a bank account in this city is a man who does not exist. They have been erased from the world of the living, and they know it. The lead man looks at his phone. Then he looks at me. His bravado has been replaced by a raw, primal fear. "What did you do?" he stammers. His voice is no longer a rasp. It is a plea. "I didn't do anything," I say. "I simply told the truth to the people who manage the numbers. And the numbers do not lie. Montgomery Vane used your accounts to launder the consulting fees. He used to bribe the licensing board. By extension, you are all accomplices to federal bank fraud." I lean in closer. I can smell the dampness of his jacket, the scent of cheap tobacco and high-stress sweat. The federal government takes a very dim view of maritime piracy and fiduciary breach, especially when it involves sovereign land. "You have two choices," I continue. "You can stay in this alley and try to take this camera, in which case I will ensure that the terrorism financing flag stays on your accounts permanently. You will never own a home. You will never hold a job. You will be a financial pariah until the day you die. Or you can get back in those cars, drive away, and never mention my name to Montgomery Vane again." I pause. "Let the weight of the threat settle in their minds. If you leave now, I might forget to file the final confirmation. The freeze might glitch and disappear in 48 hours. The lead man looks at his partners. They are already backing away. They don't want the camera. They don't want the money. They want their lives back. They want to be able to pay for the fuel in the cars they are sitting in." The lead man tucks his phone into his pocket. He doesn't look at me again. "We're done here," he says. They move fast. There is no synchronized confidence now. There is only the frantic energy of men fleeing a sinking ship. The car engines roar to life. The tires screech on the wet asphalt within seconds. The alley is empty. The harsh white headlights are gone, replaced by the dim, gray glow of the city's distant streetlights. I stand alone in the rain. My breathing is steady. My heart is a calm, heavy pulse. I touch the solid platinum hourglass pendant. It is no longer cold. It has been warmed by my skin. It feels like a living thing. The physical threat was an illusion, a desperate move by a desperate man. Montgomery Vane tried to use gravity. I used mathematics. He is running out of options. He is running out of friends. And most importantly, he is running out of time. I walk out of the alley, my heels thudding on the pavement. The rain is starting to thin. The clouds are breaking. I am Isadora Sterling, and the hunt is reaching its final stage. I have the evidence. I have the leverage. Now, I am going to find the one man who can turn this ledger into a guillotine. I am going to find the rat in Vane's office. The checkmate is coming, and the world is going to watch the Vane empire drown in the very water they tried to steal. The silence in my private study is not empty. It is a predator. It breathes with the rhythm of the antique grandfather clock in the corner. Slow, heavy ticking that feels like the pulse of the building itself. The room is a sanctuary of quiet luxury. Deep navy silk wallpaper, polished mahogany bookshelves that reach the ceiling, and the faint, lingering scent of white tea and old parchment. The air is cool. Exactly 68 degrees. Any warmer and the mind becomes sluggish. Any colder and the hands lose their precision. I am Isadora Sterling, and I know that in the world of institutional warfare, the loudest weapon in the room is the one that makes no sound at all. It is the paper trail. I sit behind my desk. A slab of dark, smoked glass that reflects the silver streak in my hair like a blade of light. The solid platinum hourglass pendant rests against my collarbone. It is heavy, a constant, cold pressure that grounds me in the present moment. I reach up and touch the platinum surface. feeling the micro-engravings that depict the constellations of the northern sky. It is a map of time. And right now, time is my most loyal soldier. Across from me sits Marcus Thorne, my senior associate, a man with a sharp suit and eyes that move too quickly. He thinks he is hiding his heartbeat. He thinks the slight tremor in his fingers as he adjusts his tie is invisible to me. But I see the frantic energy beneath his skin. I see the way he avoids looking at the solid platinum hourglass. He knows that pendant means judgment. Marcus is my rat. He has been on Montgomery Vane's payroll for 3 months. He thinks I don't know about the encrypted messages he sends from the office bathroom. He thinks I haven't traced the $50,000 bonus that appeared in his sister's offshore account. In his mind, he is playing me. In reality, he is the delivery boy for his own destruction. The trap I am setting today is not built of steel or wires. It is built of admissible evidence. I slide a manila folder across the smoked glass desk. The sound of the paper moving is a dry, rasping whisper in the silent room. "Marcus," I say. My voice is low. A controlled, melodic weight that fills the space between us. I found it. Marcus leans forward. His eyes dilate. The hunger for information is a physical thing in his expression. "The 1890 Trust Amendment." He whispers. I nod slowly. My eyes locked on his. I do not blink. It was misfiled in the sanitation records, just as I suspected. This document is the missing link. It proves that the international water status was revoked in 19... This makes the waterfront public city land. This is the lie. The document inside the folder is a masterpiece of forgery. I spent 10 hours perfecting the ink, using a chemical aging process that mimics a century of oxidation. I used a fountain pen from the era, replicating the exact pressure and flourish of a 1920s clerk. The content of this fake amendment states that the sovereign trust was surrendered to the city. If this were true, Montgomery Vane's construction project would be perfectly legal. It would save his empire. It would turn his maritime piracy back into a simple zoning dispute. It is the one thing Vane needs to survive. It is the life jacket I am throwing into his drowning world. But there is a ghost signature embedded in the watermark. A digital marker that is invisible to the naked eye, but detectable by forensic litigation software. If Montgomery Vane presents this document in court, if he signs an affidavit swearing to its authenticity, he has not just lost a lawsuit, he has committed perjury. He has engaged in document tampering. He has entered into a fiduciary breach of the highest order. He will be walking directly into a guillotine of his own making. Marcus reaches for the folder. His hand is steady now, fueled by the adrenaline of a successful betrayal. "This is huge, Isadora," he says. His voice is tight with excitement. "If this is real, Vane is untouchable." I lean back in my chair, the shadows of the room stretching behind me. "It is more than real, Marcus. It is final. I need you to take this to the vault for secure filing. Do not let it out of your sight." I watch him take the folder. I watch the way he grips it. Like a man holding a winning lottery ticket, he stands up. His movements are hurried now. He wants to get to a phone. He wants to tell Vane that the Iron Whisperer has finally made a mistake. He wants to tell his master that the war is over. I watch him walk toward the door, Marcus, I say. He stops, turning back with a look of forced innocence. "Yes, Isadora. Remember your fiduciary duty," I say. The words are heavy, cold, like stones falling into a deep well. Once a document is entered into the record, there is no turning back. He smiles. A thin, oily expression. "Of course. I'll see you in the morning." He closes the door behind him. The click of the latch is a sharp, final sound. I remain in the silence. I reach up and touch the solid platinum hourglass. I feel the cold metal. The sand is moving, the rat is running. The bait is taken now. I wait, I stand up and walk toward the window. The Manhattan skyline is a grid of electric light. 1,000 points of artificial fire burning against the black velvet of the night. I can see the Vane Tower from here. It is a spire of arrogance, piercing the clouds. Montgomery Vane is likely in his penthouse right now, drinking a vintage scotch, waiting for Marcus to deliver the news. He thinks he is the architect of the city. He thinks he is the master of the paper trail. But he doesn't understand the nature of a trail. A trail doesn't just show you where someone has been. It leads you exactly to where they are going. I think about the process of the trap, the psychological weight of the perjury trap. Vane is a man who cannot stand to lose. His ego is his greatest liability. When Marcus tells him about the amendment, Vane won't question it. He won't audit it. He will see it as his divine right. He will see it as the universe correcting itself in his favor. He will take that forged parchment. He will show it to his army of lawyers. They will draft a motion for summary judgment, and in 48 hours, under the oath of the court, he will swear that this document is a true and accurate record of history. In that moment, the transition from civil litigation to criminal felony will be complete. I feel a cold, sharp satisfaction blooming in my chest. My pulse is steady. My breathing is shallow. I am a predator in a state of absolute focus. Systemic destruction is an art form. It requires the ability to turn an enemy's own strength against them. Montgomery Vane's strength is his power to manipulate the record. So I have given him a record he cannot resist. I turn back to my desk. The smoked glass is empty now, except for the reflection of the clock. The ticking seems louder, faster. I reach into my drawer and pull out a second folder. The real 1922 amendment. The one that proves the international waters status was never revoked. The one that proves the land belongs to the heirs of the Ghost Trust. I hold the paper in my hand. It is thin, fragile, but it is more powerful than all the steel in Vane's tower. This is the truth. And truth, like the tide, is relentless. I place the real document back in the drawer and lock it. The paper trail is a circle, and Montgomery Vane is about to walk right back to where he started, with nothing. I sit back down, crossing my legs. My charcoal blazer is perfectly smooth. The weight is the most difficult part of the audit. But I have learned the value of patience. I have learned that the most absolute victories are the ones that happen in the minds of the arrogant before they realize they have lost. I touch the solid platinum hourglass one last time. The sand is falling. The trap is set, and tomorrow, the world will watch the Vane family legacy burn under the weight of a single, forged signature. Isadora Sterling does not seek revenge. I seek the audit of the soul. And Montgomery Vane is about to be found bankrupt. The grand ballroom of the Pier Hotel is a cavern of gilded excess. It is a space designed to make the wealthy feel immortal. The ceiling is a sprawling fresco of celestial battles, gold-leafed and bathed in the amber glow of 3-ton crystal chandeliers. The air is thick with the scent of luxury. It is a heavy, overpowering mixture of rare orchids, expensive French perfume, and the dry, metallic smell of old money. The temperature is a precise 16.9 degrees, managed by a silent climate control system that ensures not a single drop of sweat ruins a $50,000 tuxedo. This is the annual St. Jude Legacy Gala, a $50,000-A-plate charity event where the city's elite gather to congratulate themselves on their own generosity. But tonight, the charity is an afterthought. The real event is the celebration of Montgomery Vane's recent legal victory. I stand at the top of the grand marble staircase. I am Isadora Sterling. I am the silence that the music cannot drown out. My silver-streaked afro-tapered cut is sharp, catching the light of the chandeliers like a crown of mercury. I am wearing a structured cream blazer over a charcoal silk turtleneck. My complexion of polished obsidian is flawless, stark, defiant contrast to the sea of pale faces below. The solid platinum hourglass pendant hangs against my chest. In this room of diamonds and emeralds, it is the most dangerous object present. The light from the crystals above reflects off the platinum surface, sending sharp, white flashes across the room. It is a signal. The sand is running. I begin my descent. My heels thud against the marble. A slow, rhythmic sound that cuts through the hum of the string quartet. I do not hurry. A predator never hurries when the prey is already trapped at the center of the room. Montgomery Vane is the sun around which the elite orbit. He is holding a glass of vintage crystal. His laughter is loud, arrogant, the sound of a man who believes he has just cheated destiny. He is surrounded by his peers, real estate moguls, corrupt councilmen, and the lawyers who drafted the perjury he intends to commit. Marcus Thorne is there too, standing just behind Vane's shoulder, looking like a proud dog who has just returned a stolen bone. They think they are safe. They think the paper trail I laid for them is their salvation. They have the forged 1922 amendment in a secure vault, ready to be presented to the High Court on Monday morning. Vane sees me. His smile does not falter, it widens. He thinks I am here to witness his triumph. He thinks I am a defeated enemy coming to negotiate the terms of my surrender. Isadora, he calls out. His voice carries over the crowd, making the room go quiet. I didn't think you'd have the courage to show your face here tonight. I hope you brought your checkbook. The bidding for the silent auction starts at a level you might find uncomfortable. The crowd ripples with polite, cruel laughter. I walk toward him. The crowd parts like a retreating tide. I do not look at the moguls or the councilmen. I look only at Vane. I stop when I am exactly 3 feet away. The scent of his confidence is sour, like milk turning in the sun. I am not here for the auction. Montgomery, I say. My voice is a low, controlled weight that pulls the air out of his lungs. I am here to perform a final audit. Vane chuckles. He takes a long sip of his champagne. You're done, Sterling. My team has the amendment. We have the proof that the Sovereign Trust was dissolved a century ago. On Monday, your maritime piracy theory becomes a joke, and you become a defendant in a defamation suit that will strip you of every cent you own. He leans in closer. His breath smells of expensive alcohol and rot. You lost. Accept it with what little dignity you have left. I reach up and touch the Solid Platinum Hourglass Pendant. I feel the cold metal against my fingertips. I look him directly in the eyes. My gaze is a clinical, unflinching assessment. Marcus Thorne shifts uncomfortably behind him. The rat feels the change in the atmosphere. He sees the way I am touching the pendant. He remembers my warning about fiduciary duty. I lean forward, just enough so that only Vane can hear me. I am not here to talk about the amendment. Montgomery, I am here to talk about your liquid assets. Vane's eyes narrow. What are you talking about? I whisper a single 12-digit number into his ear. 709421. 608352. I pull back. The transformation is instantaneous. It is a biological collapse. The blood drains from Montgomery Vane's face, turning his skin the color of damp parchment. His hand, still holding the crystal glass, begins to tremble. A violent, spasmodic shake that makes the champagne ripple. The glass falls. It doesn't shatter. It hits the thick Persian rug with a dull thud, spilling the vintage gold liquid across the patterns of the wool. Vane doesn't even look down. He is staring at me. His eyes are wide, filled with a raw, primal terror. How? He gasps. The word is a broken whisper. How do you have that number? I remain motionless. My expression is a mask of cold. Professional detachment. That number is the Swiftgate authorization for the Vane Family Ghost Trust in Zurich. I say my voice is quiet, but in this sudden silence of the ballroom, it sounds like a THUNDERCLAP. It is the account you used to move the sovereign debt off your balance sheet. The account that is currently being audited by the Global Maritime Authority under the anti-money laundering protocols I triggered 48 hours ago. The crowd is frozen. The moguls and councilmen are backing away from Vane. In this room, failure is a contagious disease, and Montgomery Vane is suddenly the most infected man in the city. I look at Marcus Thorne. He is already looking for the nearest exit. He knows by using the forged document Marcus delivered to you. I continue. You have linked your primary corporate identity to a fraudulent sovereign claim. You didn't just commit perjury. You committed an act of institutional treason against the Maritime Trust. I touch the platinum hourglass again. The sand is invisible, but Vane can feel it burying him. The Global Maritime Authority has issued a writ of seizure. Every asset associated with that 12-digit number has been frozen. Your private planes, your penthouse, your construction equipment on the waterfront, and most importantly, this hotel. Vane tries to speak, but his throat is constricted by the weight of his own hubris. He looks around the room, searching for a friend, searching for a lawyer, but they are all gone. They have vanished into the shadows of the ballroom, leaving him alone in the center of the gold-leaf tomb. You thought you were the architect Montgomery, I say. My voice is a final, cold sentence. But you forgot that the architect only designs the building. The auditor decides if it stays standing. I turn my back on him. I walk toward the marble staircase. My pace is steady. My breathing is a calm, heavy rhythm. The sound of my heels thudding against the marble is the only sound in the room. I do not look back. I do not need to. I can feel the atmosphere of the ballroom changing. The music has stopped. The scents of orchids and perfume have been replaced by the smell of a collapsing empire. I've reached the top of the stairs. I stop. I look out over the city. The lights of the Manhattan skyline are a grid of electric fire. But the Vane Tower is dark. A black spire piercing the clouds. The audit is reaching its final stage. Montgomery Vane is no longer a titan. He is a line item in a bankruptcy filing. I touch the solid platinum hourglass pendant one last time. The debt is called. The assets are seized. And Isadora Sterling is the only one left with the keys to the city. The checkmate is no longer a plan. It is a reality. And the water is finally beginning to reclaim what was stolen. I walk into the night. The rain is starting to fall again. A cold, clean drizzle that washes the scent of the gala off my skin. The audit is complete. But the revenge, the cold institutional revenge, has only just begun. The morning light in my study is cold, a pale, unforgiving gray that filters through the heavy navy curtains. It does not bring warmth. It only brings clarity. The air is still, carrying the faint, sharp scent of fresh espresso and the metallic temps of a high-end security system humming in the walls. The grandfather clock in the corner remains the only voice in the room. Each tick is a heavy, rhythmic reminder that the world outside is waking up to a storm. I am Isadora Sterling, and I have spent my life waiting for the arrogant to make their most predictable mistake. The doorbell rings at precisely 80 to A.M. I do not move. I do not flinch. I sit behind my smoked glass desk, my silver-streaked afro-tapered cut perfectly aligned, my charcoal blazer buttoned. I am a statue of composure. 3 minutes later, my housekeeper enters. She is holding a thick, legal-sized envelope. It is bound in bright red tape, the mark of a process server. She places it on the desk. Her hands are shaking slightly. She knows what that red tape means. It is a declaration of war. I do not touch the envelope immediately. I reach up and touch the solid platinum hourglass pendant. It is cold against my fingers, a physical anchor in the rising tide of litigation. I feel the weight of the snake chain. It is heavy, indestructible. Montgomery Vane has fired his nuclear option. I use a silver letter opener to slice through the tape. The sound of the paper tearing is sharp, like a small, controlled explosion in the quiet room. I pull out the documents, 142 pages of aggressive, expensive legalese. The title is bold: Vane Holdings versus Isadora Sterling. The claim is for $100 million. The charges are tortious interference, defamation of character, and breach of confidentiality. Montgomery Vane is suing me for the very truth I found in the basement of the archives. He is claiming that my maritime piracy theory is a fabrication designed to destroy his family legacy. He is claiming that my audit was a personal vendetta. He thinks $100 million price tag will terrify me. He thinks the threat of total financial ruin will force me to retract my statement. He thinks he can use the court as a shield to hide his crimes. He is wrong. In his desperation to silence me, Montgomery Vane has just handed me the keys to his kingdom. I lean back in my chair, the shadows of the room stretching across the navy silk wallpaper. Litigation is not a fight. It is an audit under oath. And Montgomery Vane has just walked into the one room where he cannot control the lighting. In the legal system of the elite, there is a protocol known as discovery. When a plaintiff files a suit for damages, they open their entire world to the defendant. To prove that I defamed him, Vane must prove that his finances and his titles are clean. He must prove that the money he used for the waterfront project came from a legitimate source by suing me for $100 million. He has legally granted me discovery rights. This is the gift he doesn't realize he is given. I have the right to demand every ledger, every email, every offshore transaction associated with Vane Holdings, and specifically, I have the right to look into the Cayman Island accounts. The 12-digit number I whispered in his ear at the gala was a warning. But the discovery process is the execution. I pick up my phone. I do not call my defense attorney. I call my forensic litigator. Sarah. I say, my voice is a low, dangerous melody. The bait has been taken. Montgomery Vane just filed the $100 million suit. I hear Sarah's sharp intake of breath on the other end. Is he that foolish? She asks. Arrogance is a blindfold, I reply, my fingers brushing the platinum of my pendant. I want the request for production of documents filed by noon. I want everything, Sarah. Every transaction from the Vane Global Trust in Grand Cayman for the last 10 years. Every ghost debt they moved into the shadow banks. And I want the unredacted logs of the maritime insurance claims. Sarah chuckles. If he refuses, we move for a compelled disclosure. If he refuses, he loses the suit by default. I say, and if he complies, he provides the evidence we need to hand over to the federal prosecutors. It is a perfect circle of destruction. I hang up. The room feels different now. The cold gray light is turning into a sharp, brilliant white as the sun rises higher. I look at the lawsuit on my desk. $100 million. To Vane. That is a number designed to crush a soul. To me, it is just a line item in his bankruptcy filing. He thinks he is the hunter. He thinks he has cornered the shadow that has been haunting him. But he doesn't understand the geography of this war. I am not the shadow. I am the walls closing in. I touch the solid platinum hourglass. I feel the grain of the sand moving. Montgomery Vane is currently celebrating with his lawyers. They are likely drinking expensive cognac, laughing about how they are going to end. Isadora Sterling. They have no idea that the moment they filed that paper with the court clerk, they signed the warrant for their own seizure. Discovery is coming, and the Vane family secrets are about to be dragged into the light of a federal courtroom. I stand up and walk to the window. The city below is a machine of greed and ambition. Thousands of people moving through the streets, unaware that the skyline is about to change forever. Vane Tower stands in the center of the grid. It is a monument to a lie, a structure built on stolen land and laundered promises. I think about the dockworkers. I think about Samuel Sterling. They didn't have the law on their side. They had the tide. They had the grit. And they had the foresight to leave a trail that only their blood could follow. Montgomery Vane thinks he is fighting a modern woman. He doesn't realize he is fighting a century of ghosts. The internal monologue in my mind is a cold, mathematical calculation. Every move Vane makes is a reaction to fear. My moves are a reaction to truth. When fear meets truth, fear always tries to spend its way out of the corner. Vane is spending his reputation, his legacy, and now his entire financial core. By filing this suit, he has waived his right to financial privacy. He has made his offshore holdings a matter of public record. The Iron Whisperer doesn't just find secrets. I make the secrets find the light. I feel a cold, sharp satisfaction blooming in my chest. My pulse is a steady, unyielding thrum. It matches the ticking of the clock. I reach for the lawsuit again. I look at the signature of Montgomery Vane at the bottom of the page. It is a shaky, arrogant flourish. The signature of a man who believes his name is a currency. I run my finger over the ink. It is still fresh by Monday. This signature will be the primary evidence in a racketeering investigation. Vane thought he was attacking my character. He didn't realize that in an audit. Character is irrelevant. Only the ledgers matter. And his ledgers are bleeding. I sit back down, crossing my legs, my structured cream blazer catching the light. I am Isadora Sterling, and I have just been given the legal authority to dismantle an empire from the inside out. The countersuit is not a defense. It is a dissection. I pick up my pen. I begin to draft the response, not a request for dismissal, but a request for accelerated discovery. I want the Cayman files on my desk by Friday. The sand is falling. The trap is locked, and Montgomery Vane is about to learn that in my world. The only thing more expensive than a lie is the price of trying to defend it. The audit is moving into the courtroom, and I am the only one with the truth on my side. I touch the solid platinum hourglass one last time. The debt is due. The discovery is granted, and the fall of the Vane family is no longer a possibility. It is a matter of record. The morning at the waterfront is a symphony of cold, steel, and diesel exhaust. The fog rolls in off the harbor, a thick gray shroud that tastes of salt and industrial grease. It clings to the brickwork of the historic district like a damp, heavy blanket, trying to hide the violence that is about to occur. The air is freezing, a bitter, piercing chill that cuts through even the heaviest wool. It smells of wet concrete, burnt fuel, and the stagnant, briny scent of low tide. I am Isadora Sterling, and I have always known that the most brutal crimes are not committed in the dark. They are committed in the early morning light. Under the protection of a city permit, I stand at the edge of the construction site. My silhouette is a sharp, unyielding line against the shifting mist. My silver-streaked afro-tapered cut is damp from the fog. But I do not feel the cold. My focus is a white-hot flame that consumes everything else. The solid platinum hourglass pendant hangs heavy against my charcoal silk turtleneck. It is ice cold against my skin, a constant, rhythmic reminder of the gravity of this moment. I touch the platinum surface, feeling the weight of a century of stolen time. The sand inside is invisible, but the weight of it is undeniable across the site. The yellow giants are waking up, 6 massive bulldozers, their engines a low, gut-shaking roar that vibrates in the soles of my boots. They are lined up like a firing squad, their steel blades raised and hungry for the historic facades of the dockworkers district. Montgomery Vane is there, standing on a raised platform. He is wearing a high-visibility vest over his tailored suit, a costume of authority. He is holding a radio. His eyes are fixed on the oldest building in the row, the warehouse where Samuel Sterling once kept his ledgers. He looks frantic. There is a wild, desperate energy in his movements. The audit I triggered, the discovery I forced, the freeze on his Cayman accounts. It has backed him into a corner. He thinks that if he destroys the physical evidence of the trust's history, he can win. He thinks that if the buildings fall, the legal claim falls with them. He is trying to erase the truth with horsepower and iron. I watch him through the fog. I see the way his hands shake as he raises the radio to his lips. Break it down. He screams into the mic. His voice is distorted by the wind and the engine noise. Start with the corner unit. I want this whole block cleared by sunset. The lead bulldozer begins to move, its tracks grinding against the cobblestones with a screeching, violent sound. The vibration of the engine makes the water in the harbor ripple. I do not move. I do not shout. I do not try to stand in the path of the machine. Physical resistance is for those who do not understand the system. I do not fight with my body. I fight with the weight of the sea. I reach into my structured cream blazer. I pull out a single, blue-stamped document. It is bound in a heavy, red silk ribbon, the mark of an Admiralty Court injunction. I walk toward the lead bulldozer. My pace is steady. My breathing is a calm, controlled rhythm. The driver sees me. He slows down, looking toward Vane for instructions. Vane sees me too. He runs down from the platform. His face is a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. "Get out of the way, Sterling," he screams. "You have no standing here. The city issued these demolition permits yesterday. You're trespassing on private property." He reaches for my arm. I step back, just enough so he misses. I do not look at his face. I look at the document in my hand. "You are right about one thing, Montgomery," I say. My voice is quiet, but it carries a frequency that cuts through the roar of the engines. The city did issue those permits, but the city has no jurisdiction over this land. Vane laughs, a harsh, jagged sound. "We've been over this. The amendment proved the trust was surrendered. The amendment you filed was a forgery," I say, "and the court knows it." I hold up the blue-stamped document. "This is a notice of maritime lien," I say, "filed under the Federal Maritime Lien Act. Section 30-1-3-40-2. Vane freezes. The word lien is a poison to a developer. "A lien on what?" He stammers. "You can't put a lien on a construction site." "I am not putting a lien on the site." I say. I touch the platinum hourglass. The light from the bulldozer's headlamps reflects off it, blinding him for a split second, because this land is legally international waters. This project is technically a vessel in distress. I have filed a salvage claim on behalf of the heirs of the Ghost Trust. Vane's eyes go wide. He looks at the document. Then he looks at the water debt, but more importantly, I continue. I have filed a cross-collateralized lien because your construction firm is the same entity that manages the city's harbor infrastructure. This lien doesn't just halt this project, it halts everything. Vane reaches for the document. His fingers are trembling so hard he can barely grip the paper. He reads the first paragraph. Then the second, I watch the realization spread across his face. It is a slow, agonizing collapse of his reality. By filing a maritime lien against your primary operating entity. I say, my voice as cold as the fog. Every piece of equipment you own is now under federal seizure. I look toward the bulldozers, every machine on this site, every crane in the harbor, every tugboat you operate. They are all legally arrested by the Admiralty Court. If one of those blades touches a single brick of this district, you are not just violating a city code. You are committing a felony against the United States Marshal Service. Vane looks at the lead driver. The driver has already turned off his engine. One by one, the other bulldozers follow suit. The roar of the engines dies down, replaced by a silence so absolute it feels like the world has stopped breathing. The only sound left is the distant, rhythmic tolling of a buoy in the harbor, and the heavy, frantic breathing of Montgomery Vane. "You're bluffing," he whispers. His voice is broken. "You can't freeze the entire city's construction. Industry over a century-old trust?" "I didn't freeze the industry, Montgomery," I say. "I simply audited the title. You are the one who built your entire empire on top of a debt you never intended to pay." I lean in closer. The scent of his desperation is thick, like stagnant water according to the Maritime Treaty of 1922. Any structure built on sovereign waters without the consent of the trust heirs is subject to immediate asset seizure and foreclosure. I reach up and touch the solid platinum hourglass pendant. It is no longer cold. It has been warmed by my skin. It feels like a living, pulsing heart. "The marshals are already at your headquarters." I say. "They are locking the doors. They are seizing the servers. And they are serving the crosslien on your partners. You didn't just lose this project, Montgomery. You lost the ground you're standing on." Vane drops the radio. It hits the wet cobblestones with a sharp Plastic crack. He looks at his hands. They are covered in the grime of the site. The grime of a dream that just turned into a nightmare. The fog is starting to lift, revealing the sharp, red brick lines of the historic district. The buildings stand tall, defiant, as if they are waking up from a long, dark sleep. I turn my back on him. I walk toward the SUV parked at the edge of the site. My heels thud against the whetstone. A rhythmic, victorious sound. I do not look back. I do not need to. I can feel the power shifting. I can feel the weight of the platinum hourglass. It's pulling me forward into the final stage of the audit. The bulldozers are silent. The men are walking away. The iron whisperer has spoken, and the water is finally, mercilessly, reclaiming its own. I step into the car. The interior is warm, smelling of expensive leather and white tea. The final signature was not written in ink. It was written in the silence of the machines. Montgomery Vane is no longer a titan. He is a ghost, and Isadora Sterling is the only one left with a future. The debt is settled. The district is saved, and the audit of the Vane family legacy is finally irreversibly closed. I touch the pendant one last time. The sand has stopped moving. The time is up, and the waterfront belongs to the people who built it. The penthouse office of Vane Tower is no longer a temple of power. It is a glass-walled cage. The air is stagnant. It carries the sharp, acrid scent of expensive scotch and the underlying smell of cold sweat. The central heating hums with a desperate, mechanical frequency, but it cannot touch the bone-deep chill that has settled in the room. I am Isadora Sterling, and I have spent my life learning that the greatest empires are not destroyed by fire. They are dismantled by a single, overlooked sentence in a dusty ledger. I stand by the floor-to-ceiling window. The city below is a grid of gray and charcoal. The lights of the harbor are flickering like dying embers in the rising morning fog. My silver-streaked, afro-tapered cut catches the dim light, casting a sharp, metallic reflection in the glass. I am wearing a charcoal silk turtleneck. It feels like a second skin, smooth, dark, and impenetrable. The solid platinum hourglass pendant is heavy against my chest. I reach up and touch the platinum snake chain, feeling the cold, precise tension of the metal. I do not look at the sand inside. I do not have to. I can feel the weight of it shifting. The gravity of the final second. Montgomery Vane is sitting behind his obsidian desk. His $3,000 blazer is wrinkled. His tie is loosened. His face is a map of exhaustion and raw, primal panic. He looks like a man who has been trying to outrun a shadow for 48 hours and has finally realized. The shadow is attached to his own feet. He is staring at the pile of federal seizure notices on his desk. Each one is a red-stamped warrant for his legacy. "Sterling," he says. His voice is a dry, hollow rasp, like sand blowing across a desert floor. "You think you've won? You think a few liens and a discovery motion can stop a dynasty that has owned this city for a century? My legal team is already drafting a sovereign immunity defense. By Monday, every one of these warrants will be vacated." He reaches for a crystal glass. His hand is shaking so violently that the ice clinks against the side with a sharp, frantic sound. I turn slowly. My movements are a study in controlled, predatory grace. I do not look at the papers. I look only at him. Montgomery. I say, my voice is a low, dangerous melody that fills the silence of the penthouse. You are still operating on the assumption that you own the land. You are still clinging to the belief that your grandfather's theft was a permanent acquisition. I walk toward the desk. My heels thud against the polished marble floor. Slow, rhythmic heartbeat that marks the end of his era. Vane sneers. The deed is in the vault. The city recognized the transfer in 1922. Regardless of your Maritime Trust theory, the statute of limitations for challenging a deed in this state is 7 years. You are a century too late. I stop at the edge of the obsidian desk. I lean forward, just enough so that the light from the desk lamp hits the solid platinum hourglass. The flashes of white light reflect in Vane's dilated pupils. The statute of limitations only applies to a permanent transfer. I reach into my charcoal blazer and pull out a small, handwritten document. It is not a deed. It is a Schedule B addendum from the original 1890 Maritime Charter. Vane's eyes narrow. What is that? This is the reversionary interest clause. My fingers graze the yellowed parchment dot in the world of high-stakes property law. A reversionary interest is a ticking clock. It means the grantor retains a future interest in the property. Your grandfather didn't buy the waterfront. He was granted a conditional leasehold under the authority of the Maritime Trust. Vane laughs. A jagged, nervous sound. A leasehold. My family has paid the property taxes for 135 years. We have built the infrastructure. We have managed the harbor. That is not a lease. That is ownership. Ownership is a legal fiction you maintain through fiduciary breach. I touch the platinum pendant. I feel the smooth surface. The 1890 charter was clear. The land was granted to the Vane family for a term of 135 years, on the condition that the land be used for public maritime commerce. Vane freezes. He is a developer. He knows exactly what a reversionary clause does. It is the legal equivalent of a trapdoor. The moment you sign the contract for the private yacht club. I continue. You violated the public use condition. You triggered the reversion. I lean in closer. My voice becomes a cold, precise whisper. The term of the lease was exactly 135 years, starting from January 21, 18-90. I look at the clock on the wall. It is now January 22, 20-20-6. That reversionary interest expired exactly 24 hours ago. The silence that follows is not a lack of sound. It is the sound of an entire empire collapsing in on itself. Montgomery Vane's hands stop shaking. It goes completely still. The crystal glass slips from his fingers. It doesn't break. It rolls across the obsidian desk, spilling the amber liquid across the federal seizure notices. He doesn't even notice. His eyes are fixed on the handwritten addendum, 20-4 hours. He whispers. The word is a ghostly, broken sound. The iron whisperer doesn't miss a second. My voice is as unyielding as the platinum around my neck, because the lease has expired. Every structure you have built on that land is no longer your property. The Vane Tower, the harbor infrastructure, the foundations of your entire corporate empire. They all reverted to the heirs of the Ghost Trust at midnight yesterday. I reach up and touch the solid platinum hourglass pendant. The metal is no longer cold. It has been warmed by my skin. It feels like a living heart. You are currently trespassing in your own office, Montgomery. Vane looks around the room. He looks at the dark wood paneling, the celestial maps on the walls, the view of the city he thought he conquered. For the first time in his life, he is seeing the truth. He is seeing that he is a squatter in a house built of lies. Everything you have done for the last 24 hours is a felony. I continue. You signed contracts for land you don't own. You moved assets that no longer belong to you. You filed a $100 million lawsuit based on a title that had already evaporated. In the eyes of the law, this is not a civil dispute anymore. It is a racketeering and federal bank fraud case with a scope that has never been seen in this city. I stand up straight. My posture is a sharp, defiant line against the glass walls. The Global Maritime Authority has already been notified. The discovery rights I gained from your foolish lawsuit have provided the roadmap to every shell company you use to hide the reversionary status. Vane tries to stand, but his legs fail him. He collapses back into his leather chair. A broken, empty shell of a man. You planned this, he gasps. You waited until the clock ran out. I didn't wait. I simply respected the timeline. Justice is not a sprint. It is an audit, and the audit is now closed. I turn my back on him. I walk toward the heavy mahogany doors. My heels thud against the marble. A slow, final sound. Each step is the closing of a chapter. Each sound is a nail in the coffin of the Vane family legacy. I do not look back. I do not need to. I can feel the atmosphere of the penthouse changing. The scents of scotch and cedar are being replaced by the cold, sterile smell of an institutional seizure. I reach the doors. Stop. I look at the reflection of the office in the polished brass handles. The lights in the Vane Tower are beginning to flicker. One by one. The floors are going dark. The power is being cut. The servers are being shut down. The checkmate is complete. I step out into the hallway. The air here is sharp and clean, smelling of the morning rain and the coming change. Isadora Sterling, I say to myself. The name is a low, melodic weight in the silent corridor. The debt is collected. The land is returned. The ghosts of the dockworkers are finally at peace. I touch the solid platinum hourglass pendant. One last time. The sand has stopped moving. The time is up, and the waterfront belongs to the people who built it. I walk toward the elevator. My breathing is a calm, heavy rhythm. Montgomery Vane is no longer a titan. He is a historical footnote, and the Iron Whisperer is already looking for the next audit. The city is waking up. The tide is coming in. And for the first time in a century, the water is clear. The morning at the waterfront is no longer a battlefield. It is a cathedral of salt and stone. The fog has finally surrendered. It retreats across the harbor in thin, spectral ribbons, revealing a sky that is the color of cold steel and ancient promise. The sun is a pale, silver disk fighting to break through the clouds, casting a shimmering, unsteady light across the dark, rhythmic surface of the Atlantic. The air is sharp. It smells of the deep ocean, wet timber, and the clean, metallic scent of rain-washed pavement. The heavy, suffocating smell of diesel exhaust and corporate greed has evaporated, leaving only the raw, honest taste of the sea. I am Isadora Sterling, and I have learned that the loudest sound in the world is the silence that follows the collapse of an empire. I stand at the very edge of the pier. My silhouette is a sharp, immovable anchor against the horizon. My structured cream blazer is crisp, catching the first rays of the struggling sun. My silver-streaked afro-tapered cut is a crown of mercury, perfectly aligned, defiant. I am the physical manifestation of a debt that has finally been paid in full. The solid platinum hourglass pendant rests against my charcoal silk turtleneck. It is no longer cold. It carries the warmth of my own pulse. I reach up and touch the platinum surface, feeling the intricate, stellar engravings. The sand inside is still. For the first time in this audit, the grain of time has stopped moving. The hourglass is vertical, balanced. The countdown has reached 0.50 yards away. The final act of the Vane dynasty is being performed in absolute silence. Montgomery Vane is being escorted from the site by 4 federal marshals. They move with a heavy, bureaucratic grace, their dark windbreakers marked with bold yellow letters that catch the light. They do not use handcuffs. They do not need to. Vane is already bound by the weight of 1,000 legal felonies. He looks small. The high-visibility vest he wore earlier has been discarded on the wet cobblestones, like a shed skin. His tailored suit is wrinkled. His shoulders are slumped. The posture of a man who has just realized that the earth beneath his feet was never truly his. He does not look at the cameras. He does not look at the few remaining construction workers who watch from a distance. He looks only at the ground. There are no sirens. There are no shouting crowds. The city has simply turned its back on him. In this world, power is a shadow. When the light of the law changes, the shadow disappears. Vane is led toward a black SUV waiting at the perimeter. The door is opened. He steps inside. The sound of the door closing is a dull, final thud that echoes across the empty construction site. The vehicle pulls away, moving slowly through the historic district he tried to destroy. It disappears into the gray grid of the city, leaving nothing behind but the silence of the docks. I turn my gaze back to the water. The tide is coming in. The dark green waves slap against the wooden pilings of the pier with a rhythmic, relentless energy. These pilings were once Vane assets. Now, they are simply part of the sovereign trust. The internal monologue in my mind is a slow, melodic audit of the soul. I think about Samuel Sterling. I think about the men who stood on these same docks a century ago. They didn't have the ivory towers. They didn't have the offshore accounts or the armies of lawyers. They had only their labor, their names, and a handwritten ledger hidden in a basement. They knew that time is the ultimate auditor. They knew that if they waited long enough, the weight of the truth would eventually crush the house of lies. The reversionary interest was their final message to the future. A legal tether that reached across 135 years to pull the land back into the light. I feel a cold, sharp satisfaction blooming in my chest. It is not the heat of revenge. It is the cool, clinical peace of a balanced ledger. Systemic justice is an art form. It requires the ability to see the architecture of the law not as a shield for the powerful, but as a trap for the arrogant. Montgomery Vane thought he was the architect. He thought he could build a private paradise on top of a public debt. He forgot that every brick he laid was legally owned by the ghosts. He tried to ignore the maritime lien I filed didn't just stop the bulldozers. It initiated a cross-collateralized seizure because Vane's construction firm was inextricably linked to his family's primary trust. The collapse of the waterfront project has triggered a domino effect through his entire portfolio. The Vane Tower, the offshore holdings, the commercial leases, they are all currently being audited by the Global Maritime Authority. By sunset, the Vane family name will be removed from the city's registry. The assets will be placed into a perpetual restoration fund. For the heirs of the original trust, the land is returning home. I am Isadora Sterling, and the audit of the Vane family legacy is officially reversibly closed. I stand in the center of the docks. The wind picks up, carrying the scent of the coming season. It is a sharp, clean air that feels like a new beginning. The city in the distance is waking up. I can see the movement of the morning traffic on the bridge, a flickering stream of light that looks like a pulse. The world continues to move. Indifferent to the fall of a titan, I reach up and touch the solid platinum hourglass pendant one last time. I unclip the snake chain. I hold the pendant in the palm of my hand. The platinum is heavy, smooth, a solid weight that represents the conclusion of a century-long search. The sand is perfectly level. The debt is settled. The audit is complete. I do not feel the need to carry the weight of this case anymore. I have balanced the books. I have restored the equilibrium. I look at the dark water of the harbor, the sovereign territory, the international waters that Montgomery Vane couldn't conquer. I draw my arm back, with a smooth, fluid motion. I hurl the platinum hourglass into the sea. It catches a stray beam of silver sunlight, arching through the air like a falling star, a sharp, metallic flash against the gray sky. It hits the water with a small, clean splash. The ripples spread outward in a perfect circle, disappearing into the larger rhythm of the tide. The signature item is gone, but the character remains. Isadora Sterling does not need a pendant to remember who she is. I am the Iron Whisperer. I am the shadow that audits the light. I turn away from the water. I walk toward the edge of the historic district. My heels thud against the cobblestones. It's a slow, rhythmic sound that echoes through the narrow streets. Each step is a word. Each sound is a finality. The red brick buildings stand tall, their windows reflecting the rising sun. They look renewed, as if the weight of the Vane family's greed has been lifted from their foundations. I think about the next audit. I think about the other empires built on sand, the other old money titans who believe the law is their private plaything. They are out there, hiding behind their glass walls and their encrypted servers. Thinking they are safe, they are wrong, because the system always leaves a trail. And I am the one who knows how to follow it. I reach my vehicle at the perimeter. The black SUV is silent. Waiting, I step inside. The interior is warm, smelling of expensive leather and the quiet luxury of a job well done. I look in the rearview mirror. My reflection is sharp, polished obsidian skin, silver-streaked hair, eyes that have seen the end of a dynasty. I do not smile. I simply breathe. The Matriarch's will is not about a document. It is about a spirit. The spirit of those who refuse to be erased. The spirit of those who know that justice is a patient, relentless auditor. Montgomery Vane is a memory. The waterfront is a legacy. And the debt is finally, mercifully settled. I put the car in gear. I drive away from the docks. Moving into the heart of the city, the sun finally breaks through the clouds, flooding the streets with a brilliant, unforgiving white light. The audit is closed, but the iron whisperer is just getting started. The world is full of books that need to be balanced. And I have all the time in the world. The archive chill,